Lovette Harris hurried home, a satisfied smile never leaving her lips. Upon entering her apartment, she removed her old scarf, went to the kitchen, and placed the rustling packages on the table. The woman hummed a silly song that she had heard somewhere on her way. It seemed to play in the supermarket where she went to get groceries. The song was extremely absurd, and the rhyme was even worse, and Lovette involuntarily thought that sometimes pop hits were worse than a cold. They infect you, penetrate your consciousness, and cannot be cured by aspirin. "Why are you so happy?" asked Vanessa, Lovette's eldest daughter, entering the kitchen. "Did you see tomatoes on sale? Or did you grab 2 pieces of cheese for the price of 1? The girl looked slyly at her mother, knowing her love for discounts. Vanessa took an apple from the package, wiped it on her sweater, and bit into it with a crunch. "Wash it first." Her mother shook her head, looking disapprovingly at her daughter. "And no, you didn't guess it. I went to school, discussed Sandy's studies with the class teacher, and also found a job. And all this in one go." The girl said, looking at her mother with a mischievous look. "And what job did you get, may I ask? Our school needed a PE teacher, but you don't look like a fitness star. And did you not notice me doing jumping jacks with a skipping rope, Mummy?" Lovette rolled her eyes. Yes, she was not a sports enthusiast. Cookies were more to her liking than squats. Unfortunately, nature took pity on the sweet tooth and allowed delicacies not to accumulate too much on her hips. "Nessie," the mother shook her head. "You know how to make compliments." "Stop shortening my name," protested the daughter, her mouth full. "Show some respect. It's enough that you named me after the Loch Ness Monster. Why didn't you name me Yeti, for example?" The mother did not react to the grumbling of her daughter, continuing to send vegetables and dairy products to their places in the refrigerator. Vanessa had just turned 14. She was at that age when she didn't like absolutely everything. The teenager was dissatisfied with her school studies, picky teachers, the existence of her younger sister, who dragged her things, the impossibility of buying a new smartphone with a stump of an apple on the back panel, and even the colour of the sky. It was either too cloudy or too clear. The girl expressed her dissatisfaction violently. She cried into her pillow, slammed the door so hard that the whole apartment shook, and listened to music at full volume. Lovette treated the rebellious period with Buddhist calmness. She accepted her daughter with all her quirks and tried to support her when necessary. For example, when Vanessa stopped accepting her appearance and craved drastic changes, Lovette herself brought pink hair dye to the house. They had been laughing for a long time because they not only dyed strands of Vanessa's head, but also half of the bathtub. Lovette's childhood was not a rainbow, therefore she tried her best to make her daughter's childhood happy. However, there was not enough money. That's why the woman took a second job, which she could combine with her position as a nurse. "I won't be a PE teacher," exclaimed Lovette. "The school needs an additional cleaner to help out. They pay well, after all. Your school is not an ordinary one. Sandy's homeroom teacher told me about it." The mother also discussed the schedule, the promised amounts, and the fact that both of her daughters would be fed for free thanks to her employment. But Vanessa was no longer listening. The daughter stopped chewing the apple and could not swallow the piece remaining in her mouth. She looked at her mother in shock, not believing her ears. Vanessa hoped her mum was joking. "Are you kidding?" she asked as she struggled to swallow her apple. The unchewed piece of fruit lodged in her throat, making it hard to breathe. Snow White probably died like that, she thought to herself, feeling nauseous. "What are you talking about?" Mum blinked in surprise. "You're joking, right?" Vanessa raised her eyebrows. "Are you getting back at me because I didn't call you a fitness model?" Lovette looked carefully at her daughter. Then she sighed, put aside the yogurt pack, and sat down on a chair. "Nessie, Mum started calmly. What's wrong again? Are you serious? Vanessa exploded. My mother will be a janitor at school. Seriously, Mum, do you want me to turn into a laughingstock? A pariah? What nonsense is in your head? Lovett frowned. It's not nonsense, it's reality. You yourself said it, that my school was not an ordinary one. There's a social gap between me and my classmates. They're all rich kids, do you understand? The girl said this, falling into hysteria. I'm already exhausted, trying to keep up with my wealthy friends. You're exhausted. Lovett couldn't take it anymore and was offended by her daughter. Maybe it's me who works like a horse, trying to provide you and Sandy with the best education and a decent future. I pay for your education, your clothes are fashionable, and I took out a mortgage on this apartment so that both of you could have your own room, and you turn up your nose at how I make money. It became hot in the woman's chest and a tight knot twisted in her stomach. She looked at her daughter, feeling hurt. After all, the girl was no longer a baby and should understand that money doesn't grow on trees. It's my fault. Lovett scolded herself in her thoughts. I spoiled her and indulged her whims, she realized. Lovett now understood that her daughter's self-esteem at her age depended on material possessions. With the transfer to a new school, Vanessa began to demand expensive gifts that the family couldn't afford. Lovett tried to find a balance, occasionally allowing her daughter to have expensive items for holiday, or if she saved up, for them herself. She taught Vanessa to value money, or so Lovett thought, but apparently she was mistaken. No, Mum, the girl whined, stomping her foot. You won't be a janitor. I'll be ashamed of you. It's not shameful to work, her mother said firmly, signalling the end of the conversation. We'll need the money, Vanessa. Deal with it. It's settled. Vanessa turned like a ripe tomato, shaking with anger. Her lips, painted with pink, glittery lipstick, twisted. Tears welled up in her eyes. Don't you dare! She yelled, throwing the apple core on the table. Don't you dare come to my school and embarrass me, do you hear me? I don't want to be the daughter of a janitor. With these words, the teenager rushed out of the kitchen, slamming the bedroom door behind her. Lovett wanted to talk to her daughter, but stopped after taking a couple of hurried steps. She looked at the honey cake she had bought, but hadn't taken out of the bag. The woman had wanted to celebrate with her daughters that they would have an additional income now. Lovett sighed and put the box of honey cake, which the sisters loved so much, in the fridge, allowing herself to close the door with a bang. Vanessa walked through the school with her friend. She always took a spot in the middle between Erica and Rena. Vanessa had worried about fitting in when she transferred to a posh school, but she found friends quickly. All the rumours about bullying in the middle class turned out to be just gossip. No one poured glue on her chair, threw notebooks in the trash, or stuck gum in her hair. Although Vanessa wasn't sure if her classmates would be as favourable to her if they knew her mother was a nurse and a cleaner at school. That's why she told them that her mum worked in a cool clinic. Since she was surrounded only by the children of businessmen, politicians and celebrities, they themselves finalised the continuation and status of Lovett Harris. Classmates for some reason decided that Vanessa's mum was the head doctor. Vanessa did not correct them and explained that her mum was just a nurse. And how could she explain it? Erica's dad was a deputy and Rena's was a supermarket chain owner. And could she, a cheap candy, stand in the chocolate row with such a family? So Vanessa kept the truth out of her mouth. She had already learned how to lie for no reason at all. She didn't invite anyone to visit her, saying that her mother works hard and rests. Another time, she lied about the renovation. The third time, she said that some friends from Europe had come to stay and took the empty rooms. Look, whispered Vanessa to her friend Erica. Kevin is standing there. Vanessa raised her head and immediately blushed thickly. She liked Kevin Stapleton. It seemed that the boy reciprocated. He even bought her chocolates a couple of times, but to cover it up, he tested the others as well. A smile appeared on Vanessa's lips, but after a moment it abruptly faded. The girl's ruddy cheeks turned pale, as if the blood had fled from her face all at once. Almost beside Kevin stood her mother, dressed in a grey robe with a bandage on her head, under which she hid her thick blonde hair. On her hands, as befitting a cleaning woman, were long yellow gloves. They seemed too bright to Vanessa, attracting the attention of all the schoolchildren. Lovette wrung out the rag and began to mop the hallway floor again. It was only now that Vanessa noticed that it was damp and smelled of detergent. Vanessa even stumbled from such a picture, and if not for her friends, would have stretched out on the slippery floor. "Be careful," said Erica, holding her friend by the elbow. "It's always so slippery here when the floors are mopped. Last time, Ben from the 10th grade broke his arm." "And among the younger pupils, there are rumours that there is a magic floor here because everyone falls down," Erica remarked. "What nonsense," Rena snorted. The three of them were on a par with the cleaning lady. Lovette looked up from the floor, which she was scrubbing diligently. At that moment she met her daughter's eyes. A meek, welcoming smile appeared on the woman's face. Vanessa's heart beat faster in her chest, and her cheeks flushed again, but now with shame. "Come, quickly, soon the lesson will begin," the girl muttered. She sharply turned her head away from her mother and pulled her friends forward, trying to pass by quickly. The girl kept thinking that her mother was about to call her out and embarrass her in front of the guy she liked and in front of her best friends. But Lovette kept silent. The woman, leaning her hand on the mop handle, only gave her daughter a sad look, then, sighing heavily, went back to work. Vanessa did not like geography, and the teacher was nasty. The girl supported her chin with her fist and looked out the window, listening to the impact of man on water resources. Suddenly it turned out that something more interesting was going on outside the window than in the classroom. A guard hurried out to open the school gates. An ambulance was already rushing towards them. The paramedics were obviously in a hurry to save someone because they turned on their blinkers and sirens. The sound attracted almost the entire class. The children craned their necks to see what was happening. They murmured. "Silence!" The geography teacher raised her voice, glaring glumly at the students. "If you don't pay attention to me, you'll be writing a test." The class hurriedly reacted to the threat and synchronously looked at the teacher. Vanessa did the same, missing what was happening in the schoolyard. The class was over in 10 minutes, and the medic's car had already left, but a rumour was spreading quickly through the corridors like a forest fire. "Have you heard?" The main gossip rushed into the classroom. "They took our cleaner away in an ambulance just now." "What happened?" Rena asked with interest. "Apparently she slipped on the wet floor and hit her head. There might even be blood, because they're not letting anyone in." The other girl eagerly shared the news. "And all this in that wretched place where everyone falls. How not to believe in the cursed place?" The classmates began discussing the news, recalling who else had slipped. Only Vanessa heard them, as if through a thick layer of cotton. Her head buzzed, her temples pulsated, and her heart was crushed by a chilling fear. The girl jumped up, ignoring her friend's cries, and ran to the teacher's room. That's where she learned the terrible truth. Her mother had been taken to the hospital. "Let's go, Monkey," Vanessa said, taking her little sister's hand to lead her to school. "Will Mummy be back soon? I miss her," pouted Sandy. "And you're not good at braiding my hair, and you don't cook well." The older sister lightly pinched the girl's side. She didn't get mad at Sandy because she saw how much she missed Mum, so she misbehaved. Vanessa missed her too. Her mother had a head injury and was in treatment. That's when the doctor told Vanessa that her mother needed rest. "I'm not sure that she slipped," the doctor said. "It seems she passed out from exhaustion. She works a lot, doesn't she?" Vanessa just nodded, lowering her eyes to the floor. She felt ashamed because her mother worked hard for her and her sister, and instead of being grateful, she received demands and reproaches. "Will she be okay?" asked the schoolgirl quietly. "We'll let you know if anything changes before she regains consciousness," said the doctor. "Do you have anyone to take care of you?" "Yes," Vanessa lied, deciding to take care of herself and her sister. On the first night they spent together without their mother, Vanessa slept next to Sandy, who was very worried and cried a lot. She told her fairy tales like her mother used to, until the girl fell asleep. Only Vanessa stared at the ceiling for a long time, unable to close her eyes. She thought about what would happen if something terrible happened to her mother. If she lost her, how would she live? In their last meeting, she felt ashamed and walked past her as if she were a stranger. Vanessa wouldn't be able to forgive herself. That same night, unable to sleep, she went to her mum's room. The girl sorted her things and tidied up, even though it was well past midnight. There, Vanessa found her mother's notebook, in which she recorded expenses and the family budget. Seeing the last entry circled in bright marker, Vanessa burst into tears. Tears dripped onto the lined pages, smudging the ink, but the girl couldn't stop. She understood why her mother had been working harder. Lovette was saving up for a trip to the sea. Vanessa was obsessed with the idea, and she didn't even know that for her birthday, which was in July, her mother had planned to give her the most desired gift, a trip to the sea. She had saved the necessary amount listed in the notebook. She had written down not only the prices of the tickets, but also accommodation and even excursions, planning the trip. Vanessa looked around the room again. She rarely came in and rarely looked at her mother's things. Now, however, she realized something very important. Her mother had very few clothes, and they were old. Her down jacket, for one, needed replacing long ago, but Lovette didn't do it. She spent money on new things for Sandy, who was growing up fast, and clothes for Vanessa, who always demanded fashionable clothing. Vanessa pulled out her mother's old down jacket, which smelled of her mother and perfume. She hugged it and sat on the floor, crying bitterly. "Forgive me, Mummy. Just come back, please. I'll make it right. I'll honestly make it right. I love you so much," the girl whispered until she fell asleep. The next morning, they called from the hospital and informed the sisters that their mother had regained consciousness, but they couldn't visit her yet. Vanessa felt immense relief upon hearing that her mother would be okay. She decided to do everything in her power to keep her promise and improve herself. That's how Vanessa took on the role of her mother. She took care of Sandy as best she could. The girl realized that clean clothes don't magically appear on shelves, and their refrigerator doesn't prepare dinner. But most importantly, what the girls lacked was not oatmeal in the morning, but their mother's support. Now Vanessa understood how difficult it was to be a mother. She appreciated her more and more with each passing day. When Lovette returned from the hospital, her daughters ran to her with hugs. Vanessa grabbed her bag, scolding her for immediately starting to carry heavy things and going to the store instead of home. "You need still to rest. That's what the doctor said," the girl said, shaking her head. "I was gone for such a short time, and it feels like you've grown up so much," her mother smiled, hugging her daughters. Gradually, family life returned to normal. After a couple of weeks, Vanessa learned that her mother was going back to work at the school. "No, you can't," the girl exclaimed, and Lovette frowned. "I thought we already discussed this. I won't tell anyone that I'm your mother. Besides, now I'll come around to the 5th lesson. Your classes will be over. We won't even see each other." "That's not it," Vanessa said sadly. She couldn't find the words. Her throat was tight. For some reason, it was easier for the teenager to curse than to admit her mistakes and explain how much she worried about her mother. She no longer wanted to go to the sea and didn't want a designer bag like Rena's. She realized that the greatest wealth was her mother. She didn't need gifts as long as her mother was healthy and with her, always. Lovette did not notice the confusion of her daughter. She looked at her watch and fussed. "There's no time to argue, Nessie, I have to go." The school day went without incident. Vanessa even got an A in her least favourite subject, geography, which made her proud. The girl and her friends walked through the school hallway and approached the mirror to touch up their lipstick before leaving. After taking out her gloss, the girl noticed with the edge of her eye a familiar figure and a spot of canary gloves. She turned around and saw her mother hunched over the floor. A strand of hair had slipped out from under her scarf and was falling into her eyes. Lovette stopped working a couple of times, trying to move it with her elbow so as not to touch her face with her gloves, but it stubbornly returned to its place. When Lovette lifted her head again, she saw her daughter. She froze in place, looked at her friends, then turned sharply, hiding her face. Vanessa's heart tightened in a vice. She threw her lipstick back into her bag. It was the same expensive lipstick she had begged her mother for and received as a gift. "Girls," Vanessa called out to her friends decisively. "I'm sorry, go without me, I want to help my mum." Erica and Rena exchanged surprised glances. They recognized the woman who had been taken away by the doctors, and now they watched in shock as Vanessa approached her. The girl touched her mother's shoulder, making her turn around. Lovette was surprised, even scared, when she noticed her daughter. "What's wrong, Nessie?" she gasped. Meanwhile, Vanessa smiled and fixed her mother's hair so it wouldn't get in the way. She rolled up the sleeves of her shirt. "What can I help you with, Mum? We'll get it done faster together, and then we can go home," she suggested. Tears welled up in Lovette's eyes as she assured her daughter that she didn't need help, but Vanessa was determined. Together they managed and then picked up Sandy from after-school care and went home. On the way they bought a honey cake, which they found delicious. On Monday, when Vanessa went to school, she saw Erica and Rena whispering to Kevin. She felt her reputation in class had been ruined. Trying to avoid her former friends, she escaped during breaks, but she couldn't hide for long. After the 5th lesson, the girls and Kevin caught up with her. "We know about your mum," said Erica, looking at Vanessa disapprovingly. "I'm sorry I lied. She works at the hospital, but she works as a nurse," replied Vanessa. "I don't care what you think of our family. My mum raises me and Sandy alone, and she works very hard. I love her." "Do you think I'm angry because your mum cleans the school?" Erica shouted. "Did you think I wouldn't be friends with you because of that? Did you think I was completely nasty? And when your mum got into the hospital, you went alone but didn't tell us anything. Is that what friends do?" Vanessa looked on in shock as Erica cried, smudging her expensive mascara on her cheeks. She cried because she was upset with Vanessa and because she felt sorry for her friend. Vanessa couldn't hold back her tears either and hugged Erica and Rena tightly. Kevin, who didn't participate in the general hysteria, stood modestly nearby and smiled. However, the big surprise for Vanessa and her mother was that the daughter of a politician and the daughter of a businessman teamed up to help them. Kevin carried buckets of water, and the work went quickly and very cheerfully. As a reward for their help, Lovette invited her friends over. Vanessa finally brought them home without making up any stories. The girls were thrilled with her room because her mother allowed her to put up her favourite posters and decorate it to her taste. Their own rooms looked like museums and were the work of designers. "I don't even like pink," Rena complained, "but it's apparently trendy. So my walls are pink, and even my furniture." Erica played with Sandy, and it turned out she loved children. Kevin couldn't tear himself away from the home cooking. "We have a home cook," he said with a mouthful. He cooks something very fancy, healthy, and absolutely tasteless. Can I come to you more often?" Seeing the plea in the boy's eyes, Lovette and Vanessa just laughed and said he could come whenever he wanted. Vanessa realized that happiness is not something that can be bought. True happiness is free, and it has always been nearby. It's sincere friendship and love from a mother and sister. And she also knew that they would go to the sea. Only she would help earn the money herself. After all, it was her turn to make gifts for her beloved mother.